apparatus.
They look like 1 hour later, they look like 3 minutes. And not them. She'll take our extra time.
Are they going to put the camera over there? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Sure. If you wanted to point out later. I could take it out. Yeah, I guess. What's the test? Right over there. Yeah, you can take it.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we should. Okay. Well, if you go ahead and open the door, you can open the stand. It's perfect. Well, from a recording microphone.
We're going to use the other mic, but it didn't work for some reason. Talk a little bit.
Hey everyone! Wow, we got a great group of artists and patrons and enjoyers. Welcome. Compoundaganza. This is a show celebrating the work of the studio artists in that, basically. So it gives you a really good sampling of what's happening back there. And this is some, but not all, of the participating artists. So we keep it pretty straightforward. We'll pull down the line, and each artist is going to introduce themselves, talk about their work a little bit, and if you have questions while that's all happening, feel free to shout out, raise your hand, and if you want to inquire about their process or their inspiration or anything, feel free to go. So we'll keep it straightforward like that. 5 minutes or so each person, so we don't go all day and bore everybody completely. And we are streaming live, so we can have viewers from anywhere in the world watching as well. You can call your mom and have her watch it on TV.
My husband's watching.
Yeah. You could ask questions online too under the chat box, and we could ask the artist as well. So with that, thanks for coming out, you guys. And we can start with Andreina.
Okay. My name is Andreina Davila. I am from Venezuela, and I'm a painter mostly, but also working sometimes in installations. And I'm working now with printmaking too. I want to explain that. My painting is the one that is the large one, the round one that is right there. And right now I'm working with 2 series. One is called Somos, which means we are in Spanish. And it's about big philosophical questions that I usually read about it and I cannot understand after. So I thought I'll paint what I understand, and I try to keep track of what I'm understanding about this big philosophical question. So this is a really bad novel. It's a good history of philosophy, like an introduction of philosophy. It's called El Mundo de Sofía, Sophie's World. I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but it goes through the history of philosophy and starts with the Big Bang. So that's the Big Bang or the origin of life. So the first piece that I did is the origin of life, and that's what it is there. And I want to paint one for each chapter of the book. So it's going to be like 36 pieces when I'm done in a few years. And each of those pieces, I'm going to make a print of it, and then print it in 15 supports, and then make like 15 different versions of that piece. And just want to kind of show you, one of them is going to be a painting. That is what I used to work with, and then I'm going to do prints that are just like monoprints, different of each, and just kind of change them a little bit. It's kind of like a metaphor for changing perspectives and philosophical points or ideas. And of course, it's just like changing the color or the texture, but it's just a metaphor for the idea of your changing perspective. And so that's the Somos series, but I think I see them like long-term projects. When I'm done with this novel, then maybe I get something else that is a little bit more deep. But besides that, I'm working in I Am, and we have a show that Toni is creating, and with Maritza next week, and it's going to be in the artist gallery there. If you guys are interested, it's about portraits of people's egos. So I'm working with people who go online to my website, tell me about one thing they identify with very deeply, then I try to paint that. So some of them are normal portraits, some of them are more abstract, and it depends on what they are that they want to identify with. So that's the two things I'm working on. One of them is kind of like from the big perspective, more abstract, it is almost, and then the other one is more individual and is the portrait.
Is that painting there addressed the Big Bang?
Yeah, the Big Bang, origin of life, so it's the beginning. And I have 15 different ones.
Wow.
And then I have to do the next one. It's going to be kind of like wondering about life. It's the idea that we're wondering, thinking about philosophy. So that's the next one. I'm going to do 15 of those. Maybe etching. I took the workshop with David and really like etching for my work. So.
How far into the book are you now?
I read it all, but the problem is that I forget. It's when I understand that when I'm reading the chapter, I'm a very visual person. So I understand that. Then I thought that's why I think it will help me and maybe somebody else to see it. Okay, that chapter was about this, and then kind of like start making a visual history of very non-opinionated. Of course, I'm not. I don't know enough about the topic, but I want to learn. So.
Beautiful. And your medium? What do you work?
I use mixed media, so I either use water-based mixed media, it's acrylics and a bunch of different things, acrylics and inks and vinyl paint and sometimes oil pastels and pencil and ink, of course, a lot of things. And I also use encaustic mixed media. So when I use encaustic, then I use oils and ink and collage. So it's either one of those, and then I'm starting to work with printmaking and kind of also want to use mixed media with printmaking. And I don't know enough about it. I'm learning, so very excited. All the equipment in the field, so kind of want to make you try new things.
Well, Take, would you like to talk about the Invisible Giant project?
Sure. Hi, so my name is Takehito Etani, and my work is these things that blocking your view. Its title is Invisible Giant, but you see the device, but you don't see the giant inside right now. So this is a wearable piece. Well, actually, you can see on the wall that when I wear it, that's how it looks like. So these are the shoes, or stilts, people call it, and this is the backpack. My shoulders are going to go in here, and my head is going to stick in here. Then there's the 3 video cameras. It's functional object or sculpture. So there's video cameras underneath here, and then the other one, and then these are looking through this template, cut out the footprint. So what they do is actually recording the video of the footprint that on the surface that I'm working on. So if I'm working on a tile like this, it's going to record that, or the asphalt or concrete or grass, whatever. And then right now, actually, you can see this is a live feed right now. So connected monitors in the back. And also there's one more additional video cameras on the head on top of this dome, looking up the sky, and that's the sky over there. And so this is intended to be worn outside, walk around the urban area and record, map the space. So the intention of doing this is kind of creating footprints record. It's kind of hand with carbon footprints. So it's one of the inspiration is, I guess, the dinosaur fossilized footprints. So these concrete, asphalt, all these things we're walking on right now is going to be left behind after we, all gone, maybe 1,000 years, 2,000 years, 10,000 years later. and then they're going to be left behind. That's going to be our footprints that we walked on. So that's what I'm actually, creating our footprints in a way. But of course, it's a video. It's not going to be left behind that long. Well, I don't know what's going to happen to that, these digital records. But at least I'm trying to kind of like project the view that people in the future, like how they're gonna look at us. Like they can't, they try to kind of like guess how we lived in this 21st century. So that's I'm trying to project the view so that we can kind of reflect on us, like our everyday kind of thing. So so also I have like a different level of like idea conceptualization. So which is like the title is The Invisible Giant. This is the invisible giant that I sort of like conceptualized. So this is like a story, like a legend of invisible giant. So he used to live like roam around the earth, or maybe there's multiple of them, but they're like very benign giants. So they didn't want to step on other animals or some creatures. So they gradually sprouted like eyes on the bottom of feet, so that they don't step on things. And, also, it had another extra eye looking at the sky. So it's kind of mythological spiritual being, because he is connecting heaven and earth together. So they are worshipped by ancient humans. So that's the story that I kind of created. So this is kind of like a recreation of that giant, for me to kind of reenact, become the giant as well. And also like I envisioning myself like wearing this battery operated, and I can put the car battery here. To walk like a long distance, like maybe every day, like 5 hours in urban area. Right now I'm thinking about like walking San Francisco from Candlestick Park to along the coast, like all the shorelines before the landfill happens, like around the 1850s. And then trace, go to like AT&T Park, and then finish at the Golden Gate Park, Golden Gate Bridge at the bottom base of it. But the reason I'm walking, taking up this, like a giant studio, it's just kind of, giant. But also like the reason I'm interested in this old shoreline is kind of like try to connect the past, present, and the future, kind of. So this is the kind of device that conceptually unearths the stuff, like ground surface, connecting all these three different levels. So this is also like become kind of like maybe like base camp for me. So I can set this up at the end of the day, each performance, and then these actually slide out, so become like a little desk. I can sit on the ground, and then my head's gonna be sitting around here. So it'd be like a workstation. If I need to like edit the video that I record today, I can do that. And then also I can I'll be walking with stuffs, and those stuffs gonna be like stick in here. I did a demonstration in the opening, like showing how this works. So those two is gonna stick here and extend out here, and then at the end, all the stuff's gonna rest on this, and then I can stretch the canvas. So it becomes kind of like a stretcher, and I can lay on this. And then also I'm thinking about putting like stretch like a little like tent or something. So this would be like my sleeping the base camp as well. So self-contained. Self-contained, yeah. So like self-contained, like a human-powered traveling, human-powered time machine. Kind of that, the idea. But this is like a prototype, so it's still quite heavy. I did walk around a few weeks ago, like before the, when they walked the street. And well, so I tried to walk all like 10 blocks. It was quite tiring, but my shoulders really hurt. Shoes were.
You have to suffer for your art.
I know. Yeah, more pain, more. But shoes were actually fine, quite stable. Not that heavy, but the backpack was really heavy. And also people kept stopping me, asking questions.
Yeah.
So that's not, I can do good promotion for the project, but not the recording. So, I have to think about how to engage with people on the street also. But, it hasn't resolved it. Right. Or I think having a little device that have as I walk, you will leave a chalk powder, mark stands for a website, something in the shape of footprints, and then we'll write it, so they can go online to know about it. Yeah.
I have a question, Take. I know you're into Buddhism and meditation, and you go on retreats. Is this kind of a contraption for a larger awareness as well? It seems like by having more eyeballs, by seeing the sky, by seeing the earth, you're walking around, it seems like it's going to open your mind up a little bit to a bigger picture, or is that just a neat
that's kind of for me starting point usually. I don't want to contain myself that idea of spirituality. I want to bring in other aspects in life industry. But that's how I started. Giving ourselves different perspectives. We're so busy looking around, looking at other people. But this is more giving us macrocosmos and microcosmos kind of point of view.
Have you ever slept outside with it?
This, I took a nap. Outside the park.
And you fell asleep?
Not yet. Well, that's also leadership. Yeah, almost. Yeah, I could actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So, my name is Maritza, Ruiz-Kim, and I have pieces over there and all. I know you can just walk over there, but it's these two pieces in case you remember them. So this is, I don't know if you can see it over there actually. Oh, how bright it is. No. Anyway, this one is Fading, and then there's one called Staying. So I'll talk about them in a minute. So my name is Maritza, and I trained as an artist at San Francisco Art Institute a while back, and I studied performance, installation, and video primarily. And so in the subsequent years, I had different concepts I'd work with and have some forms in my sketchbook and just kind of keep reworking things in my mind. It wasn't time to really make that work, really kind of make it happen. But as the years went on, I kind of wrote some scripts. I did kind of different ephemeral things that really couldn't be documented. So that became frustrating as an artist. There's nothing left of the work I've been doing. There's nothing to show for what I've done. So that was frustrating. And I started to think about as an artist, am I making a commodity? Am I just making something to be sold? Am I a machine? Am I just making things to make people's homes look pretty? What am I doing? And so it was just this questioning, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then there became that real question of how am I going to sustain this? There's a great book called Living and Sustaining a Creative Life by Sharon Loudon. It was she edited it. There's a lot of artists that contributed to that, so it's pretty interesting. But that question of how do I keep this thing going? And I'm going to have to sell something. I can't just sell ideas, or can I? Trying to explore that. And so it was probably about 5 years ago, I started to try and look for ways, how can I build a visual language for these ideas? I need a way to capture these ideas in a physical way so I can share them with others visually, not just through writing, not just through conversation, these, what I consider really important ideas, which I'll get to, but I really started to think, how can I, find, what am I doing? What marks am I making? What am I leaving behind? And so I started, picking up some watercolors, which I've been interested in. I've done oil, I've done different things, and then I learned encaustic, which is something Andreina also uses. Encaustic is with wax, and when I learned about that, it was a medium that really captured a lot of what I wanted to do, which is painting and sculpture. I'm really interested in building up an image and taking it back down, cutting into it, burning it, melting it, and it's still a painting, so it kind of lives and breathes. And so I felt like, okay, I found this medium that really embodies what I'm trying to do with my work. And so I started working with encaustic, and then, it's been a few years, but doing different things, different paintings, different mark making, and I actually went back to some of the sketches I did in my early 20s, which is where these two came from that are here in the show. So I had this notebook where I was trying to explore creating a community of people in an abstract way. How do I create these different personalities? So I kind of had in my mind, what does a lonely person look like? I was trying to create sculptural forms, but I didn't really have the material to make those sculptural forms, but I was sketching them out thinking, one day I'll make these things. So what does a person who's full of themselves in a not good way, what do they look like? What is that? What is someone who is burdened? I was just trying to come up with these different ideas, and how would these different persona, live with each other? How would they communicate with each other? How do I want to set them up? So I just have these installations that go through my mind, and it was all in my mind, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So when I was working on these paintings, it was early 2013, so a little over a year ago, I was kind of in a dry spell with that image making. You kind of get in that spot as an artist, so I had been feeling really prolific, and then I got into a dry spell. What am I going to do? Nothing's clicking, and so I went back to those old sketches that I mentioned, and I started trying to bring them to life. And so I actually did just 5, so I'm not done with them, but the 2 that are shown here actually were, I think, the strongest of the 5, which I basically just kind of trying to put into a painting what these ideas for sculptures that I had. So, and then the titles I came up with just recently, Staying and Fading, and just trying to come up with this emotional sense and experience in those 2 paintings. So the work that I'm doing now that we're showing together is a series called the Core Series, and it's that same idea of what is the essential person, and so taking one essential person and trying to communicate it in different ways. So I work a lot with encaustic and video, photography, just whatever is going to kind of bring that form to life. That's it.
Mr. Jack Clark.
I'm not trying to look like Doomy and sad everyone, there's just a light shining exactly in my face, which is why I'm looking down at the ground for the most part. I'm Jack Clark. I am this printmaker and painter, is the majority of what I do. I make colored shapes, pretty much is the core of what I do. Both of these pieces that are in the show are actually test prints from other series. So whenever I start a new series of work, I will get a new clean piece of paper, and I will use that as what I'm doing my first test run for every single screen that I use in the series for it to live on. I'm also a terrible printmaker and don't do anything the way that you're supposed to. So Harry's probably going to explain what you really should do when you want to do things properly. So these, the top one is actually the test sheet for a calendar that I had made this last year. That one doesn't turn out very well. You can see each one of the single image that would have been on each page, but it's all sort of layered onto there. This lower piece is from a show that I did, thanks, Toni, about, it was for a show that I did in Denver at a brewery, and it was called Great American Beer Stories. It coincided with the Great American Beer Festival every year. And within that, I was asking people for memories about beer that I was then making, these geometric abstracted representations of their stories. All of those layers are on there, including a couple other sort of rogue things that I was doing around the same time. And all of the pieces that make up the series of this are actually part of the Compound Indiegogo. You can get the entire series, all 10 pieces from this, as one of the rewards on there. And yeah, these I really loved all these test prints that I do, and have found that wow, that's an equally cool image. Maybe not that one. That's an equally cool image. I am really interested in what's happening with the interaction of color, because that's really at the core of what I'm most interested in within my work and most art in general. And so my newer, most recent work, these both happened at the end of last year, has started to get even more pushing to where this realm sort of goes. Quickly about my personal process with screen printing. I don't make films. I collage scraps of paper straight onto the exposure unit to make whatever I'm making for all my sort of compositions. Since a lot of what I'm doing is rooted in stories or people's memories, and then me retelling them, I'm sort of going another level of, just like when you tell me a story, it's not what actually happened, it's your version of what happened. I'm then making my even further distorted version of what the version you told me of what happened. And much like with the memory, you can never go back to that same thing again. Without having films, it allows me to make an image that you can never remake again. I can make something similar, but I can never make the exact same screen, which is something I find really interesting about what we're doing right now. So, yeah, I think that's me.
Toni.
Hi, everybody. I'm Toni Gentilli. I've been at the Compound for 3 years now, and I love this place. They let me build a darkroom here. I primarily work as a photographer, but I use a lot of historical and alternative photographic printmaking processes that have a great kinship to printmaking in general. There's an interface, I think, between those two modes of working. In my practice, most of my work nowadays doesn't even involve using a camera. I've kind of distilled what I'm doing down to the basic elements of photography, so light-sensitive chemistry and light itself. And so the project, which you can't see on camera, but it's over in the corner there by the counter, is the grid of images. Called Nemesis is the name of the series. And it's some of the most recent work that I've done in a cameraless process. And the way that I've made these images is in my darkroom using liquid silver gelatin emulsion, which is the content of black and white photo paper, basically. And so I am more or less in the dark with this paper, and this liquid emulsion needs to be heated up. It's kind of like the consistency of wax. It's kind of dense, and you need to put it in a little double boiler, get it into a liquefied form, and then I'm actually working on the paper with an eyedropper, and mostly an eyedropper and a paintbrush, and applying the chemistry to the paper itself, and then folding the paper in half and manipulating it as I press the paper together. Then I force dry it with a hair dryer typically, and then I put it through, I expose it to light under my enlarger, and then put it through the process of developing it the same way you would a black and white photograph. And then while it's drying, the chemistry is still pretty viscous. It doesn't really soak into the paper completely, and so I'm able to continue to manipulate it more as the print is drying. So it's sort of a weird combination of photography, printmaking, illustration, I don't know,
possibly sculpture, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, when you get up close to some of the prints, there's some really lovely elements on them that actually, when the chemistry is really thick, it sits on top of the paper, and as it dries slowly, it crystallizes, so you can see these little reflective bits that almost look like glitter, but they're actually large grains of silver, so you can really see the chemical content of the process itself. And I'm just really fascinated by sort of the early history of photography and its development, and how a lot of early photographers were also chemists, astronomers, botanists, all sorts of, intellectual and creative minds. And I'm looking for ways to use photography in a similarly investigative way. I draw a lot of inspiration from the natural world, and I also personally have a background in the sciences. I was an archaeologist for almost 15 years, and I spent a lot of time with my nose behind a microscope looking at cross-sections of prehistoric pottery and all sorts of stuff like that. So that you can probably see an influence in sort of my abstraction and interest in texture and kind of looking at things close up. But just also really interested in this relationship between photography and science, and the way that photography has been used throughout history to represent notions of truth. So that's really what this project is all about.
I'm Mary Berger. I've been at the compound for 2 years, and also very happy to be here. I'm going to talk about this. This piece is called Trafficking. It's from a little series that I've got in the exhibit here. And so it's a screen print series. It actually originates with a much larger piece, a 5-foot by 5-foot square piece that's using a really simple abstract pattern of like a 3 or 4 pronged pattern, and just repeating that, but somewhat irregularly. So these unexpected negative spaces came out. And I was just really interested in that unplanned variation. So I took a photograph of that and made this halftone screen, and then took the negative spaces and made these color blocks, these sort of arrow-headed pieces, and then just drew a line on top of it to sort of create another pathway through the piece. And I'm flipping around. That's the way to exhibit here. It's malleable. So yeah, I'm just very interested in that process of repetition and variation, and also the process of distinguishing an original from a copy. So the halftones are interesting to me because they always suggest photography. Photography in this context always suggests documents. Like somewhere there was a thing in the world and it was captured on film and made into this image. But what about when the photograph is of an abstract and it's made into an abstract? Where is that relationship between abstract and representation? So that's the kind of thing I'm interested in. And then there's variations on this piece with different color, different scale. Just kind of see what happens in these things. Taking a very constrained sort of palette and palette forms and colors, and seeing how to make some interest in it. And there's another piece I have on exhibit here. It's a 2-person exhibit, which Toni curated. And I did a sort of large installation called Razzle Dazzle Melanism. This is a small reproduction of it. Razzle Dazzle Melanism. So that evolved from thinking about surveillance, the ubiquitous surveillance we all experience. And I did a camouflage, and how might we camouflage ourselves in an age of surveillance. And then another artist here, Etani, showed me a picture of something called dazzle camouflage, which was this patterning used in World War II painted on ships. That was just this very dramatic, high contrast patterning, not to conceal the ships, but to make them, to confuse the viewer about how big is that ship, which direction is it going, what kind of ship is it. So like a cubist pattern, just breaking up the surface, making it confusing. And so I was interested in that, and also thinking about this phenomenon called industrial melanism, which happened in England during the Industrial Revolution, where a species of moths actually changed their wing color from white to black in response to the soot that was permeating their environment. So this took, a number of generations, obviously, but a small, measurable amount of time. So
just interested in that intersection of military camouflage and natural adaptation, and trying to, and also, the intersections between loss of natural habitat, loss of privacy, and coming up with a way to think about an assertive response to loss of your habitat, whatever it may be. And that's how this image evolved. So the originals of these are 6.5 feet square, and I wanted to make a miniature of it. Probably a game to play with that idea of miniature. So the big ones are collage. I printed a bunch of abstract patterns that were about 1 foot by 2 feet square, cut them up and collaged them. Took a photograph of it, and so this is just a photo stencil of the large piece.
Screen printing?
Yeah, it's all screen printed. Yeah.
So that's exactly the same as the big one.
It is, yeah. A mini me.
Nice.
Thank you, David.
David's fire.
Things to show.
Yeah.
I'm David Fire. I also make work under the name David Six, and I'm sort of all over the show. The boy with the fish is my painting. This is my print here. You What I, and I'm also in Admiral Dodd Gallery, showing letterpress. I'm on the web a lot. I steal images from the web a lot, and I recut them up, and we sort of put them into the churning of my studio and reconfigure them. This linoleum cut we did for the print convention that was here in March. It took about 4 hours. It's 2 colors. It started out in blue. It took about 2 hours to hand print, and then another 2 hours in black to black print. The image is derived from a 1950s dance photograph of like a prom that I cut up and reassembled and then blew up and then regridded again to this 3 foot by 6 foot that was originally printed as a steamroller print, which is a steamroller actually does the printing for you on the street up in Solano County. There's a little ship image in there. I am really kind of like freaked out by this painter, Antonio Jacobson, who was an 1880s painter of boats who used to live in New Jersey. And he made paintings for about $5 or $10 of beer money, basically. And they're incredibly, he worked on the shipyard, in the shipyards, and all his rigging and detailing is super accurate. So I've been looking a lot at his images and thinking about how to incorporate things that he had done, ways of him painting. And the boy with the fish is also, the image is actually taken off the web. Some of the things going on for me image-wise is issues about narrative and presentation of narrative that you can put, as long as there are 2 figures in any painting or image, all of a sudden there's this narrative created that you necessarily have no control over. I mean, a single figure in a painting is a portrait, but after that, when you put 2 figures in, there's a story going on. And quite those kind of questions are kind of really interesting for me at the moment, and multiple figures are coming up as being really a big deal. I've been doing a lot of printing here at the compound, including letterpressing. I tend to use materials that I either have like cat food bags or potato chip bags, things that are recycled. When I moved here to the East Bay, recycling is a huge issue, and it's sort of like, how do I work with that? What is that about? And it's like, printmakers go out and spend thousands of dollars on paper, and I was just like, I'm not doing that. I need to find another way to do that. Because I just thought that's not recycling, that's just using straight media. And there's thousands of prints out there that are not functional. What about reprinting on prints? On my prints, that's even happening where I'm churning through my own work in a project that I'm doing for the show in Pacific, a 50/50 show which opens in September. Using my own work, cutting it back up, reassembling it into new narratives. So recycling is kind of a big deal. Water images are a big deal. Questions about narrative. Yeah, that's what I'm
What's the
doing.
material you printed on?
This is printed on Pellon, which is a quilting material that is, it's sort of a liner for quilts to keep quilts flat. One of the letter presses, this is also on Pellon that I boiled in coffee from a print that actually didn't work, and then I ended up letter pressing on. And just sort of being willing to take some of the aspects I have. My experience as a painter is that you keep throwing stuff at it until you make it function. And do more. Keep throwing stuff at it. My philosophy about printmaking is keep printing. Just keep throwing ink on it. Eventually it'll affect something to change. You'll find your way through that. Because it's not about function. It's more about, I'm trying to change my way of thinking about making objects, that it's not function or work, that it's more like a meal, that it's flavoring and duration and taste, which is like more story oriented. It's not, I'm just telling you a story, I'm giving you a flavor, I'm talking to you about cumin, or the way tarragon tastes in bread, as a narrative kind of issue. So those are the kind of things I'm thinking about, other ways to narrate image making from this side.
You guys have any questions?
What was the name of that New Jersey artist again?
Antonio Jacobson.
Okay.
Well, thank you everybody for coming in. I see you guys almost every day and we work together, but I've never been able to sit and listen to you talk about your work. It's really thrilling. I'm super honored that you're all working here. Just want to give you all a big hug. Thank you all for coming in. The studios are open and the artists are here. Maybe they'll invite you to the studio if you'd like to see more of their work, and feel free to have snacks and browse around the building. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Deutsche Welle,